Hey, Dr. Karen Can here. Welcome to another edition of the Spiritual Medicine Digest. And this week's topic is about when you're not allowed to prevent harm to others. And this is a really touchy subject because not that long ago, we were, doing our thing, and then suddenly this, pandemic thing happens, right? And so many people were warning us about, how it was created, what was it meant to do. We, as a collective, labeled these people conspiracy theorists, or as I like to say these days, conspiracy realists or conspiritualists. And so much of what they're wanting to do is to prevent harm for others, right? So one could argue, well, hey, with TOLPAKAN Healing Method, you can heal millions of entities at once in multiple timelines. So why not be able to mitigate any potential negative effect of the jibby jabby or the so-called virusy, ahead of time so people will not get harmed? And that sounds really good, right? I mean, it sounds good to me. It probably sounds good to you, because the last thing we really want is a whole bunch of people being harmed or dying from, whether you think it's intentional or not intentional, things, toxins, things like that. Here's the thing, though. Over the years that I've been learning and teaching healing, we don't always get a say on how we want things to be. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of credence to the law of attraction and being able to be fully conscious and be a conscious creator in your ideal future reality, what it is you want to create. In fact, one of my first books that I ever wrote was Creating Your Fairy Tale Love Life, how to harness the law of attraction to attract your dream partner, like I did, my husband, James. But there is a little bit of misunderstanding, if you will, on this whole conscious co-creation thing, creating with the universe, creating with God, source, whatever, whoever you want to call it. Sometimes we're not allowed, if you will, for lack of a better word, to get what we want. And you would think, well, why not? Like, hey, isn't this for the highest and greatest good? For people not to be harmed, for people to stay healthier or safer or whatever the word you want to use. And you would think, yeah, that sounds like a good deal, right? But here's the clincher. And it's not like they tell us this as we're growing up. We don't get trained in this in school, definitely not in school. But here's the tip. If it's not for the highest and greatest good for humanity's evolution, then no matter what it is that you want, even if it looks good on paper, even if it seems good on the outside, sometimes it's not allowed. Now, that doesn't mean we're not allowed to heal humanity or heal the planet or any of the other amazing things that light warriors around the world are doing. Yes, we do, to a point. If the healing or the correction blocks or prevents human evolution, that's where there's a hard stop. And that can be really difficult for people like me who are recovering codependents, recovering perfectionists, and recovering control freaks. I'm almost fully recovered on that one. But anyway, so if you're like me at all, a little bit, then it can be really challenging because we so want to help us sensitive souls, our earth angels, our indigo souls, our starseed souls, our light being starseed souls. We want so much for humanity. And we are here on a mission to resonate the frequency of freedom and love and joy and peace and all of that good stuff. And sometimes it feels like our hands are tied behind our backs. Like, hey, God's source is telling us, wow, we have all this amazing healing power and self-healing power, yet we're not always allowed to intervene on behalf of humanity in the way that we, with our human minds, think would be good. Let me give you a solid example. Okay, well, let me give you an example of how it can be for the highest greatest good and how sometimes we're not allowed. So, for example, in 2016, there was a humongous 216 mile per hour hurricane. At that point, was the biggest hurricane known, or the fastest hurricane known, and it was hitting Mexico. And by the time I heard about it, it had already hit landfall, and it was supposed to destroy huge swaths of land and probably kill thousands of people in this poor area of Mexico. Now, there's probably a reason why I got that email on a Friday evening that I opened that told me this about this hurricane. At this point, weather magic was fairly new, at least for me to teach it. So I, went to my Facebook group, which had like 20 people, and I said, hey guys, we need some weather magic here. There's this, hurricane that is going to kill thousands of people. So do whatever you think is best. This is what I'm doing, and let's change this reality, right? Now you're thinking, big hurricane, 20 people. Okay, right? But you know what? By the next day, 24 hours later, that hurricane had basically diminished to a kind of just a wet drizzle. There were no lives lost and no major damage caused at all. Now remember, I already told you that, it already hit landfall by the time we got to it. So you're thinking, wow, that's pretty powerful, right? Well, guess what? Well, it was allowed. It was for the highest and greatest good, and that healing was not going to interfere with the evolution of humanity. Another hurricane, now we've done several hurricane healings, but another hurricane that was hitting Texas some years ago, when I did ask about whether we were allowed to completely move, dissolve, or uncreate that particular hurricane, the answer was no. We moved it a little bit, but that it had to fall. And me being me, I asked, well, why? It was not for the highest and greatest good for us to heal that hurricane, because it hitting that area was for the highest and greatest good for the people in that state to come together with compassion to heal with love. So yeah, that made sense to me. It's not necessarily what I wanted. On the other hand, my family who live in Texas, some of them, were safe. And that's what I think is very interesting, because one of the other hurricanes that we did healing on, I can't remember whether that was Matthew or there were so many, or Irene or whoever it was, but one of our light warriors was in Boca Raton. They warned it was going to be 8 feet tall. It was going to go like literally drown the house. She was getting ready to evacuate and she called out for help. We said, yep, we're already on it. Okay, that hurricane was headed right for her. As well as some of our other students in Hawaii and things like that. And wouldn't you know, that hurricane split into two and went around her. Yep. She said, we got a drizzle. I didn't have to evacuate. It was not 8 feet. And that was freaking amazing, guys. Right? And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty amazing. Okay. It was allowed. So what things might not be allowed? Say, hypothetically speaking, you had a spiritual Faraday cage, and you could place a spiritual Faraday cage around all low vibrational objects or toxins or anything you can imagine that might not be good inside a person. Would you be allowed to do that to prevent any harm to that person? The answer is yes and no at the same time. Yes, to a certain number of people, and depending on, is it for that person's highest and greatest good? Well, you think, well, of course it is. It'll prevent harm from them, right? But what if having a reaction or a consequence of their choices is necessary for them to learn and evolve? Then no, you're not going to be able to intervene necessarily to prevent that harm. Now, it depends on their level of consciousness, depends on what their role is, in this world. And we don't always have to have a say, on these things. That being said, with you being as conscious as you can be, I like doing it through stillness, through observing internal movement, being in the body, feeling the body, being fully here and in the now, that helps me connect to 0 point. That's what we teach in our level 1 program. That's what we teach in the Sensitivities or Superpower book, right? Chapter 4. That space elevates or expands, if you will, your light radius. And as that light radius expands, those that you are close to, even if you're not physically close to them, but they are heart close to you, are to some degree protected, if you will, from negative frequencies and energies. So it behooves all of us to work on ourselves more and more, to become more and more conscious, right? But it doesn't mean that you can always avoid pain for yourself or for others. So although we have done global healing on multiple different toxins and things that have come out over the last number of years, there's a certain percentage where it is not allowed. Not allowed. So it doesn't matter. You could be the most powerful healer in the world. If it's not for humanity's highest and greatest good, it's not going to happen. Can't force it. So for example, there may be 8% or 20% of whatever it is you're healing that is not allowed to be healed. And certain numbers of people may need to be harmed or in order for example, humanity to wake up. And that's not necessarily mean or awful or evil or anything like that, because that is our purpose is not necessarily just to be in this meat suit. You know what I mean? Like, when we die, we don't actually die. Our meat suit might die, but we go on. So it helps to know that that we do the best we can. We intend the healing the best we can. Sometimes it's allowed, most of the time it is, and sometimes it's not. But we can be at peace knowing that we've done our job in working on ourselves and putting that intention out there. And with TOLPAKAN healing, we often ask, is it for the highest greatest good, or is it allowed, meaning allowed by source, creator, collective consciousness of humanity, whatever you want to call it? And sometimes the answer is no. And try as we might to do that healing, we can't force it. It's not going to happen. So there are certain frequencies, let's just say, frequencies, vibrations, things like that may not be of high light score that are planned. And even though I've been told there is a plan, the only thing I can do is wait. Wait until it happens. Then maybe I can intervene. And that happened Valentine's Day. It's funny how they launch these things on my birthday. But anyway, and so every week, just to let you know, I will be checking, probably Sunday or Monday, for this next thing that is planned, and to see if I am allowed or we are allowed to intervene on everyone's behalf to neutralize whatever that is. Now, I could be completely wrong and there's nothing, but can't hurt to ask. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next several weeks. Now, it'd be a heck of a lot more convenient to my schedule, if God would just allow me to, know ahead of time exactly what's coming and then, jump to the future and heal all that and yada, yada, right? So, but I get that I'm not allowed. Now, tomorrow could be different. Tomorrow I could wake up and go, hey, I have a great idea. Can I put the energy out there to already heal those frequencies now, but they don't happen until later, and maybe Ascension 3, my little healing pyramid here can help us. Okay, well, that's a possibility. And like I said, we do the best we can. So if you've been struggling a little bit with, seeing people being harmed or concerned or worried about them, it's time for you to do your own self-healing. Let's go ahead and heal some of those subconscious, often, habits, patterns, beliefs, codependency patterns right now. So you can be at peace, because you are the best thing that can happen to someone when you're in peace and joy, regardless of circumstances. And this is daily work, guys. This is not a one-time, oh, I'm peaceful no matter what happens, I'm always peaceful. No, this is a daily thing, because you are going to be challenged, and then you are choosing to go back into that peaceful place. And sometimes you have a reaction and then you go, whoop, I had a reaction, you know, and then you go back. You're not expected to be like some sort of robot without emotions. But if you know that you're worrying, if you know that you're, you know, over giving or trying to manipulate the situation so that your friends and family will do what you want them to do, at the end of the day, you're doing that because you want yourself to feel better. And so once we know that, then we can release some of those codependent patterns. So this week's TOLPAKAN Healing Activation is all about releasing those patterns that bind us to this attachment to it has to be our way or else, you know? So if you're ready to receive, I'm ready to help you receive. I'm going to go ahead and do a TOLPAKAN Healing Directive and Activation. Your job, if you would like to receive, is just make the intention to receive. Sometimes people like to close their eyes, feel the energy running in their body first, you know, just to see if they have a shift. And I'm going to say this directive, and your job is just to receive and just notice the body. Because when you pay attention to the body, it's amazingly how much faster the healing occurs for you. Ready? Okay, here we go. So I now command that all negative or non-supportive thoughts, codependent patterns, beliefs, habits, and programming be deleted, dissolved, and uncreated in the highest and best way, all directions of time, with ease, speed, and grace in every timeline where you exist, were allowed, with ease and grace. Thank you. So we'll let that energy or energies settle in. Some people see it as like erase, 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 you know, some of these patterns. Now you can make new patterns. Now your memory can remember those old patterns. And whatever was allowed to release, got to release, which is great. I'd love for you to post in the comments. Let me know how that feels in the body after that activation. All right, so some announcements for this week. I have the pleasure on Monday's Light Warrior radio show to air an interview with Christine Koth, my friend who is a PT and author of the book Tight Hip, Twisted Core. There we go. And I interviewed her previously about this really neat tool called the hip hook. Well, she has a new tool out called the knuckle, N-U-C-L-E, the knuckle. And it is brilliant. It is brilliant. I wish I had it in here so I could show it to you. Anyway, there's 3 sides to it, and it's to release the occiput here, the neck and the occiput, and the pectoralis muscles. You wouldn't believe how much tension, maybe you do, that these 2 areas keep. Now, the hip we talked about in the other show, amazing. These tools are staples in my house. And then the knuckle to help with the pecs and the neck. Yeah, revolutionary. Now, I don't know about you, but I sit a lot. I do a lot of stuff too, but I sit a lot. So these are really great tools for people that sit a lot and have any sort of neck tension. I'm amazed, you know, like I'll be like, oh, nothing hurts. And then I'll be back here feeling stuff. I'm like, oh, that's kind of tight. Whoa, that's kind of tight. Probably doesn't help that I do push-ups and planks all the time, but you know, it is amazing how we curl in. Our fascia just gets distorted. And guess what? The fascia is the foundation of health. Ooh, that's kind of like alliteration. Foundation, fascia, foundation. So you want your fascia free. And this is going to really help to release those muscles, the fascia there, and really shift your physiology. So we're going to be talking about that Monday at 12 noon Eastern, so check it out. If you can't make it live, that's okay too. This is a pre-recorded show, so you can always go back to that link that I'm going to share near this video and watch it, or listen to it later. I think you'll really like it. Speaking of watching now, as far as cool stuff, every week I'm releasing a new episode of the Healthy Life, Healthy Habit video series. And the last 2 videos, in case you haven't caught it, were about tongue position and mouth taping. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? But I gotta tell you, I've been really training the tongue position. Now, I'm not going to share with you anything that I don't do and tell you to do it and me not do it. Okay, so all these videos are about things that I actually do on a daily basis often. especially with these two things that are healthy habits, and I'll share with you some of the wisdom behind them, why they're important. So if you haven't watched those two, check it out and see. So especially the mouth taping one, which was brand new, that I released last Sunday, all about, if you have issues with snoring, dental, dental and gum issues, you breathe through your mouth when you're, when you're sleeping, mouth taping while you sleep can be really, really helpful. So check out that. There's a link near this video of that playlist. And yeah, so I'm going to put the links also below this video for the stillness through observing internal movement in case you don't already have that free training, as well as a copy of my book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower. That link, because chapter 4 is the more, in-depth explanation of the stillness through observing internal movement process and how to get into that 0-point field, how to elevate your light radius because of, you being in that connection with source, with that alignment. So I hope you really enjoy it. And anything that we have on this video is more than, happy. Please, do share it with people that you love and care about. So remember to hit subscribe and like to this video if you are not already, doing that on this platform. Put in the comments how that activation felt for you and any other insights or ahas that you got watching this video. And I look forward to talking with you next week. And bye for now.